Coming up, we remember one of the greatest pilots of all time.
Honors for the best of the best in the flight training world. Awards for some of the worst flying machines.
And wings and wheels to promote your airport. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
There are many important things to consider before purchasing an aircraft. Let the experts at Aerospace Reports help guide you through the process. We combine expert knowledge with our long-standing commitment to personalized customer service to perfect your transaction. Learn more at aerospacereports.com.
I don't like to think that I'm bragging about anything, but I always wanted to give everything my best effort, and I had to overcome air sickness. And so many people think I must have been a natural aviator, but I really wasn't. I was probably the person most unlikely who could ever learn to fly.
And yet, he became one of the greatest pilots of all time. Hello and welcome to AOPA Live this week. I'm Melissa Rudinger.
And I'm Tom Haynes. Bob Hoover passed away Tuesday at age 94, and he was in the middle of telling a story when it happened. That was Vintage Bob.
So I got dressed the next morning, and here I am now. I'm in the hospital with my feet up, and my toenails are bright red.
No matter the venue, Bob Hoover liked telling stories. And why not? No pilot had more aviation experiences than Bob. Like escaping a German prison camp and stealing a Focke-Wulf 190 to fly to the Netherlands.
And all of a sudden I heard this rustling around, and I looked, and there were pitchforks coming at me from everywhere. And they were the Dutch. They hated the Germans, and they saw me land in this airplane with German markings on it, and so they obviously thought I was a kraut.
Or why he learned to fly so smoothly.
I went through all of the sicknesses you could ever get, and finally overcome it enough to fly so smoothly. And I did that because I didn't want to get airsick. And so I learned to do everything so gracefully that it amazed everybody.
And who wasn't amazed when he flew the Shrike Commander through his engines out, that's both engines, routine, or poured a glass of iced tea while rolling the Big Twin. After World War II, Hoover became a military test pilot, finding the limits and the problems of just about every new aircraft coming down the line, and there were a lot of new airplanes in those days. He put his rear on the line to test the engineers' solutions to overcoming compressibility and the so-called sound barrier, and he vied with Chuck Yeager to be the first to fly faster than sound in the Bell X-1.
I deserve it, maybe, because I've been hanging myself out in the breeze. And but when Chuck got it, that attitude went out the window. I decided I was going to help him. I never regretted that. I would like to have done it, of course. Everybody would like to be the first to do something
But that was Bob. Unfailing graciousness and approachability. The only person he had to impress was himself.
I did things with airplanes that a lot of people had never done, and it was just because I was pushing myself to prove that I really was going to succeed at the one thing I'd wanted to do so completely in my heart and mind.
Bob said a pilot wasn't Superman, and that's why he almost always wore a suit and tie and his trademark Panama hat rather than a flight suit. He wanted to be approachable. He wanted to tell everyone to follow their dreams.
You know, the most important thing that any aviator can do is encourage others to want to fly. And the best way to do that is to be very humble, very supportive of what they're doing, and make certain that they are passing along, that you don't have to be Superman to fly an airplane, but you need to be understanding of the people that you're flying for and the people you're trying to encourage to become good aviators.
Inspiring others, providing advice, coaching like you just saw, and just an amazing guy to be around. Very uplifting, very inspirational.
Absolutely, and I so have such vivid memories of the 90s at AirVenture and him flying that routine that really nobody else was flying then or now.
Right. He'd take the Aero Commander, do those dead stick landings, 1 engine, 2 engines, no engines for those amazing routines. The thing about Bob was it was interesting to be around as he was just so comfortable being Bob Hoover. A lot of celebrity pilots or celebrities in general get so wrapped up in being the celebrity that they're just very uncomfortable with themselves. And Bob was just a comfortable guy, 6'2", skinny as a rail his whole life, and just towered over people. And yet he would take the time to get down on one knee and talk to a kid, provide advice and encouragement to anybody who asks, signing autographs and telling stories, as long as anybody cared to listen.
Yeah, my impression was the same. He seemed completely unaffected by the fame, right, and just comfortable in his own skin.
Yes, he definitely was.
And the tributes to Bob have been pouring in, of course. EAA President Jack Pelton said he was a true gentleman and unfailingly gracious and generous. Noted aviation attorney John Yotis fought for Bob when the FAA unjustly revoked Bob's medical certificate.
I guess the foremost characteristic I remember of Bob is his courtesy, his true gentlemanness. Throughout this ordeal, and he really went through quite an ordeal, he never said a bad word about the FAA and NTSB. I can't say that about myself. But Bob was a true gentleman.
And AOPA President Mark Baker remembered the attention Hoover devoted to Mark's young son, encouraging him to pursue his dreams.
He was all attentive in that moment, at that time, with a pretty young boy, and there's lots of stuff going on, and he was focused in that time in communicating and making sure he had the channel open. And I've seen him do it, before and since, but to see him, that close, he was a magician. And I think he's magical in the way he inspired a lot of people.
And we should all aspire to be like Bob Hoover.
Yes, we should. We'll never forget Bob Hoover, of course, and AOPA is truly honored to be part of keeping his memory alive with the annual Bob Hoover Trophy.
The Bob Hoover Trophy will be awarded to an outstanding aviator that truly personifies what Bob Hoover himself stood for. Superior airmanship, humility, humbleness, but also the willingness to share the incredible story of aviation and every piece of aviation with any generation from now and going forward.
The trophy is a replica of the Bob Hoover statue that stands in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum's Udvar Hazy Center. An honoree will be selected each year. Fittingly enough, the 2016 honoree was Bob Hoover himself.
And now let's look more towards aviation's future. There's a lot of buzz in the flight training business this week. Thought leaders, flight schools, and CFIs are just getting back from the annual Redbird Migration Conference. It wrapped up in San Marcos, Texas this week. Migration is a place to share ideas and best practices throughout the flight training industry. It's held at the Redbird Skyport. This year's theme was Big Data. Redbird Flight Simulations founder Jerry Gregoire said there's a whole lot that the flight instruction world and GA can gain from things in the big data industry.
I think we're finally starting to break through as an industry about what it is and how it can be used. So probably the most exciting thing for me was I think everybody's going to leave the conference today and understand what we're all talking about in terms of why it's important to collect it, why it's important to keep it, and what are the strange things and new things that can come out of this.
There are big changes in store for Redbird and the Migration Conference. Jerry Gregoire is stepping away from day-to-day operations at the company. He's going to take some time off and then work on other projects. The Migration Conference has outgrown the Skyport, and next year the event will be at the EAA Museum in Oshkosh. Migration is a great way for flight training professionals to share best practices. AOPA wants to highlight and honor those instructors and flight schools out there who are doing great work. The future of our industry depends on it.
It does, and that's why we've created the Flight Training Excellence Awards. They were handed out at AOPA pilot editor Ian Twombly has the story from San Marcos.
Operations being You never forget your flight instructor in flight school, and making sure student pilots have a great experience is critical to helping the pilot population continue to grow. The AOPA Flight Training Excellence Awards celebrate schools and instructors that are doing it right. Brenda Tibbs was named Flight Instructor of the Year.
I really love working with different people. I love setting goals. And so when I'm working with a student, it's a constant resetting of goals. You know, first I have to get them to solo, and then we have to get them through a rating, and I can't wait to get them through a rating, and as soon as we're done, I'm ready for them to start over on the next rating.
AOPA honored Brenda and a dozen other training providers during Redbird migration. Brenda just ventured out on her own, and winning the award will help bring visibility to her new business.
It was a huge honor that people actually voted and said the nice things that they did.
The awards are a key part of AOPA's flight training initiative, one of the 4 cornerstones of the You Can Fly program.
So our You Can Fly program is made up of 4 initiatives that are aimed at different points in a pilot's life cycle.
AOPA strongly believes in the power of flight training and its impact on the community.
And we aim to improve that student pilot completion rate through our flight training initiative.
Ian Twombly, AOPA Live.
The Flight Training Excellence Awards are based on the results of the AOPA Flight Training Poll. We ask students to give us feedback each year. Thank you to all who participated.
And of course, it wouldn't be migration without something funky going on. And this year, people were divided into teams and given identical boxes of stuff and asked to make something that flies. And you can see that some of them flew, well, sort of. The entries were judged on categories like overall unique design, best sales pitch for the flying jalopies, and least likely to find an insurance underwriter. That might have been the toughest category. The team building exercise brought people from across the world together to work on the project.
What about very creative solutions there? Leave it to Redbird to bring people together that way.
They always make it fun.
They do.
If you're a woman looking to start or advance your aviation training, Women in Aviation International has just announced more than $660,000 worth of scholarships for next year. You have to be a WAI member to apply, and the deadline for applications is November 14th. More information is on their website.
Do you fly multi-engine airplanes? If so, the Air Safety Institute has some tips for you. They just released a new video called Taming the Twin. The video goes through misconceptions about twin performance and gives some rules for pilots to follow.
If you follow these 4 general rules, being realistic about the airplane's limitations, putting greater emphasis on flight planning, building extra safety margins into your operations, and making the effort to maintain a higher level of proficiency, you'll be in a much better position to really take advantage of the greater safety offered by that extra engine.
You can find the video on the Air Safety Institute website. When we come back, an ADS-B setback for one company.
And at a community airport, one way to show it off.
Purchasing your own aircraft is an exciting experience. AOPA Finance simplifies the process, saving you money with lower interest rates and hassle-free loans, so you get into your new aircraft sooner. AOPA Finance, the right approach to buying an aircraft.
Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week.
Here's some good news for aviators refueling in New Jersey. While fuel taxes are going up by 23 cents a gallon, avgas has been spared. AOPA worked with other organizations to head off more taxes on aviation. AOPA was on the ground before the state legislative committees to oppose the tax increase.
The FAA is proposing an Airworthiness Directive that would require some pilots to remove their ADS-B transceivers. The proposed AD applies to certain NavWorks ADS 600B models. The FAA says some of the devices do not meet TSO requirements, and as a result, they could send unreliable position information.
The problem seems to center on the GPS that's built into some of these units. The GPS is not certified. It does not have to be certified. Under the rules, it does need to meet the performance requirements of certain one or more navigation TSOs. The company seems to believe that it does. The FAA seems to believe that it doesn't.
AOPA will comment on the proposed AD.
Well, when is the human machine no longer airworthy? Dr. Jonathan Sakier has some thoughts on knowing when it's time to hang up the scarf and goggles, and says Jethro had it right.
While it would be a great idea to have a ground crew to run our flight plan by prior to liftoff, I think it would be a fabulous idea maybe to check in with those same people who know you, your skills and sense of health, maybe once a year or so, just to ascertain if age-related but perhaps imperceptible deteriorations might suggest it's time to quit.
You can see Dr. Sakier's full video on our website, and you can find out what Jethro had to do with it.
Does your community know about your airport? Chances are no. But it's important that they do, and one way to promote your field is to hold an event that will bring folks to the airport. And it's surprisingly easy to do, as we found out with our first Wings and Wheels event at Frederick Municipal Airport. AOPA Live's Warren Morningstar was there.
4 wheels? 3 wheels? 2 wheels? They were all at the AOPA National Aviation Community Center this weekend at the Frederick Municipal Airport. A fun way to get the community to visit their community airport. Center Manager Mike Woods says there is a natural community that can help make these kinds of airport events happen.
We talk about the parallel lifestyles, that there are those who fly airplanes that are also into cars, into motorcycles. We wanted to bring them all together. But more than that, we want to bring them all together at the airport.
Wings and Wheels brought a surprising 2,500 people to the airport on a blustery day.
This gives those folks who already have that interest that every time an airplane flies over, they're looking up and wishing they were there. This gives them that opportunity to take the next step, to get up close to the aircraft, to get up close to the pilots and the flight schools and ask the questions that will eventually lead to them getting into the cockpit.
And some of those people are already making plans.
There's been a lot of enthusiasm about learning to fly today. I've talked to a lot of people and given them my card.
Now, Brenda Tibbs has just started her own flight school. She said Wings and Wheels was very good for her.
Talked to dozens of people, but I anticipate probably maybe 10 people will be giving me a call so far.
But it's more than just business opportunity.
I think events like this are great ways to invite the community out and help them understand this is their place too. There's a place for them at the airport, and we want people to feel like that. This is a public space. It belongs to the city of Frederick and the residents of this city and county. And we want to treat an airport just like a public park.
And putting it all together is not that hard. It's just a matter of community connections.
But the thing is, we all have those connections. It's just a matter of, hey, let's pull this together and do this successful community event.
Warren Morningstar, AOPA Live.
We have an online guide on how to hold an airport open house and other types of events. You can contact our You Can Fly staff for more information and help.
And finally, next week, Tom and I will be in Orlando for the National Business Aviation Association Convention. AOPA will be there on the exhibit floor. Drop by our booth if you're attending. We're also offering a special seminar on Wednesday called Get Back to Your Roots. It's all about flying just for fun, it's free, and you can register online.
So one way or another, we'll see you next week from Florida. Happy Halloween, everybody.